The creative CoRealizing ecosystem has been designed to solve the structural problems inherent to our current socioeconomic system. It first identifies and breaks through the cultural constraints, again, inherent to the current industrialist socioeconomic context. Um, we recognize in the new framework the true origin for value creation, and this will help facilitate a global shift, a global life valuing paradigm shift. And ultimately, it will provide a people-centered model and method for the co-realization, commercialization, and capitalization of humanity's creational value potential. Let's look at what are the constraints, the structural constraints of the current socioeconomic context. In the value exchanges of the current context, we have constraints at four different levels that we have identified and will describe in detail: the idea, the startup, operation, and market levels. The first constraint occurs when we have the situation that in order for an author to validate the value of an insight, it has to be published to an audience, which will give that validation. And so here we have the situation that an author needs to corroborate the insight by publishing it to the audience in exchange for validation. And this is the first level of constraint. The constraint is that the authors need to protect the insight is in conflict with revealing it to the audience for validation. So here's where the author and the audience have opposite value gains intentionality. Your author cannot have a protection without the audience validation. And this seems to be a simple problem, but actually is at the core why we're wasting the vastness of our creativity's potential. And just think about how many people we know that have come up with ideas and come up with something like, say, wow, I just came up with this idea and wouldn't it be fantastic if we were to make this, it could create a lot of good, and we can actually create a lot of wealth with this. How many people just go to their deathbed with all these ideas unrealized? We do have examples of that many, many times. Then, even when we have somebody with the skills sufficient to become an entrepreneur, that means that they have validated their insights and have been able to attract a team of co-founders that make them create a proposition of an idea that can be presented to investors to in exchange for seed funding. When the investors come and they want to acquire the equity. That is again another level of constraints where opposing value gains intentionality comes to probably benefit the investors, and the actual seed, the actual funding for equity trumps whatever value the potential of the idea has. So this is the typical situation of a shark investor will come in and say something like what happens with this popular program, the Shark Tank, and Kevin O'Leary says to entrepreneurs, if I have your idea, why do I need you? And we take this as something that is for granted. We take this as this is the way it is. And the tremendous cost is that we're living in a socioeconomic context that makes the value of our ideas unredeemable. This again is an effect compound of the effect of opposing value against intentionality that is being compounded from the beginning at the idea stage. So now that then the next stage, the next level is when an entrepreneur is lucky enough to get funding and then becomes an employer And to operate a business, as an employer, he needs to get labor from employees in exchange for salary. And here again, we see that the opposing value gains intentionality keeps compounding. In the opposing value gains, that the employer needs to reduce labor cost, which is actually affecting the benefit of the employer job salary. So the job salary that benefits employees in direct contracts against the intentionality of the employer to reduce labor cost. And when we actually look at what equity investment bankers do to take advantage of this situation, we can see how any investment banker will buy a corporation and just simply make it more profitable by reducing labor cost and leveraging the assets with a great number of different loans and doing all kinds of financial innovations to extract more value from the corporation, just to benefit the stockholders and disregard total many benefits to the stakeholders. And ultimately, at the market level, we have the situation that in order to succeed, a producer must profit from winning supply competition. And this is a process that is blind, because producers do not go knocking on each other's door to see, who's producing what, so they can collaborate. They just simply produce whatever they produce, and they want to win their competition with their supply. And to succeed, the consumer needs to have to satisfy the high quality or value at a low price with their demand. And again, this is where at the market level, the positive value gains intentionality between the consumer, the producer's profit, and the consumer's quality at low price. The demand and the supplies are not in alignment. This also creates a tremendous problem where so many producers just simply oversupply a market. Something typically seen in a supermarket, where we can go and we see almost like 200 different brands of cereal. This is totally inefficient, and this is producing a tremendous waste of all resources, and it's not necessarily conducive to creating more satisfaction of consumer demand. This is blind market competition at this level. So this presents how the industrial socioeconomic context have the constraints of stockholders versus stakeholders opposing value gains intentionality. And when these are compounding, this can be seen as clearly one of the reasons why we have created this tremendous income inequality. The CoRealizer ecosystem addresses all these problems at every level and reconstructs the value exchanges in a whole new way, and produces a platform, a technology platform with a partnering strategy, a new model for commercialization, a method of capitalization that completely transform the dynamics. So where we currently have an industrialist model that has stakeholders versus stockholders versus stakeholders opposing value gain intentionality, the CoRealizer model creates alignment between stockholder and stakeholders value gains intentionality. And we will see that the transformation is from a blind market-spec competition for consumer demand amongst many producers to a conscious purpose-based co-realization of consumer demand, and where demand is going to be one of the initial inputs to the decisions of value creation. And then also one of the distinctions then is going to be that currently we are operating a dissociated supply-driven value exchange, and the CoRealizer model ends up creating an integrated demand-driven value exchange. The details for how this is going to work needs to be explained after the presentation of how the platform actually creates the conditions, the strategy, the model, the method that delivers this transformation.